Good evening, and welcome to It's Worth a Discussion. I am your host, Kathy Bailey, and I am so happy to have you back with us. Tonight, I have a very special guest with me. I have Dr. Benjamin Franklin Jr. of Cleveland, Ohio. He is actually the pastor of Inner Healing Ministries, and he is here with me this evening to discuss forgiveness. Thank you so much, Pastor, for being here with me this evening. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So,
my pleasure.
Let me just give you a little bit of background about Pastor Franklin before we jump into tonight's subject. As I mentioned, he presently serves as the founder and senior pastor of Inner Healing Ministries Church located in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. Pastor Franklin attended Kent State University and received a bachelor's degree from Cleveland State University. Pastor Franklin also holds a master's degree in pastoral counseling and a doctorate degree in formational counseling from Ashland Theological Seminary, and he is the founder and the director of the Christian Counseling Services of Greater Cleveland, a counseling agency that provides help for marriages, anger management, grief support, addictions, forgiveness, family intervention, and spiritual direction. Dr. Franklin has taught as an instructor at the McCreary Center for African American Religious Studies and has served as an adjunct professor at Ashland Theological Seminary on both the Cleveland and Ashland campuses. That's a hefty resume, Pastor. So I just wanted to invite you here tonight to talk about forgiveness. I feel as though that's a subject that we often gloss over. So, and I think we need some help. We need some help. And I would just be transparent and say that I'm one of those people. I'll raise my hand and say that I'm one of those people. But I'm hoping that this discussion tonight will help some of our listeners, whether you're listening via the podcast or if you're joining us live. I'm hoping that what we discuss here will actually help us out a little bit. So, Pastor, tell us, let me ask you, why is it even important to forgive? Why is that important?
Okay, well, first of all, Kathy, thank you for having me on your program.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful program. It's a beautiful effort.
Absolutely.
And you're doing great things.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
God
you.
bless you. Forgiveness is an extremely important issue for all of us. One of the reasons why it's important is because there are two things that are going to happen in everyone's life. Number one, because of the close proximity that we have with each other and because of our interpersonal dealings with each other, you're going to do one or two things. You're either going to do something to someone that requires forgiveness, or someone is going to do something to you where you'll have to forgive them. It's not if it happens, it's when it happens. It always happens. It's going to happen in families. It's going to happen in the jobs. It's going to happen in the church. It's going to happen with neighbors. Because of the way we are, there's always going to be something where we have dissension or some type of disruption or some type of conflict to occur in our social structure. So forgiveness is huge because without it, there'll be separation, there's alienation, there's hard feelings, and there's something that occurs where we become disjointed and we don't understand each other. And it happens on all levels. So this is something that right now you have in our culture, especially in our culture now, where we're going through even post-pandemic, and we're trying to come out of this pandemic, but never before, probably since the Civil War, have we had so much separation. There's political separation, there's racial tension. Let's just take the divorce rate in and of itself, the divorce rate is over 50%.
Yeah.
And that's across cultural lines, that's across racial lines, that's across socioeconomic lines. So, there, a lot of times there are conflicts that people just can't get past. So that's just a little bit. So forgiveness is something that we all need. We need to master it. We need to be good at it. We need to practice it for the sake of our nation, for the sake of our culture. If you look on an international level, if you're looking on a national level, if you're going to look on a family level, a community level, whatever level you look at, forgiveness, reconciliation is extremely important.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So I feel like for the most part, forgiveness, well, let me just take a step back and say, it seems as though we are more easily offended by those that are closest to us. So because of that, it seems like it's harder to forgive those that are in our immediate circle, close friends, family members, and so on and so forth. Like, why do you think first of all, why do you think that the offense is so great? Because the person is closer to us.
Well, the ironic part of it is this. Excuse me. The ironic part of it is this. The only people that can really harm you or hurt you to a degree where it is significant are people that are close to you.
True. That's true.
That's the irony of it. A person who's living across the country that doesn't know me can't really hurt me. But oddly enough and ironically enough, the most hurt is done with people who we know, marry, relatives, co-workers, business partners, and those kinds of things. Because I'm close to you, I hurt you. And that even makes the hurt even more intense because I get to know you and you know me. And so that's what occurs. So it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And so because of that, we have to be forgiving people. And so yes. The Bible speaks of, it says, watch this, it says, love your enemies. But what happens is the people that are close to us become our enemies.
Yes. Yes.
They become our enemies. And the people who become the most, some of your most egregious hurts happen in families.
That's true.
Brother and sister, father and son, husband and wife, okay? Church members who work together, and that's where it is. And so if we're going to have any type of unity or togetherness on any level, we have to learn how to forgive. So that's the irony of it.
So how do we maneuver through that? Because, I mean, I'll just be transparent. I'll be transparent and say that when someone that's been close to me has offended me, my response is to just not deal with that person anymore. You know, that's my defense. You know, I could say, you know, I love you, but I'm going to love you from the distance. When in essence, I'm not doing anything because I haven't gone to that person and said, okay, you offended me when you said that, because my thought process is, well, they know me. They're close to me. You know, this is my friend. This is my, you know, whomever. So they should know how I would respond to what they've done to me. So in essence, I'm really not fixing anything.
Right.
I think I am, but I'm not. So how do we even maneuver through that when it's someone that's that close to us?
Well, let me start out by saying this, Kathy. a key to forgiveness is knowing this, is that if we don't forgive, well, let me back up a little bit and talk about something called wounds. And I'll talk about wounds a little bit, emotional wounding. Wounding, when a person is wounded, a wound is something that, there are basically two types of wounds, emotional wounds. A wound is something that happened to you that shouldn't have happened, or is something that you needed but you didn't get. Okay, let me give you an example. Abuse, whatever type of abuse it is. It could be sexual abuse, it could be physical abuse, it could be verbal abuse. That's something that happened to you that shouldn't have happened, okay? The other type of wound is something that you needed but you didn't get. A father's love, a need but you didn't get. Understanding, validation, something that you needed but you didn't get. Those are wounds. Now, whenever we're hurt or wounded, wherever there's a wound, there's also a wounder. Can't have a wound without having a wounder.
Yes.
Now watch this. So when we're wounded, then we're hurt on the inside, we're broken on the inside, we're bruised on the inside, and when somebody does something to me, what happens is this: anger, bitterness, rage, vengeance, all those types of poisonous emotions, where do they go? They're inside of me, and they stay inside of me, and they harm me. Okay? I'll give you an example, just so that we can put some flesh on these bones here. Let's just say that most of our wounds come in childhood. Okay, I'll give you an example. It could be, sexual abuse is huge today in our nation. Verbal abuse is huge today in our nation, in our culture, and so when a person is hurt on the inside or they're wounded, and they don't forgive, what happens to that? They carry that. We internalize it, we embrace it, and it is poisonous, it's volatile. Hate, hatred, anger, bitterness, rage, vengeance, all bottled up inside of us. And what happens is, hurt people, okay? That's where that comes from.
Yes.
So if I'm wounded and if someone does something to me, I'm hurt, I'm wounded, I'm broken, I'm a bitter person, I'm not a happy camper, and if I internalize it and I feed the fire of it, I walk through life a walking time bomb. I am about to explode, and look at my life. It comes out. One of the reasons why we have so much, when you see dysfunctional behaviors in our nation or anywhere, crazy stuff, someone shooting up, we see a lot of that. We see crime, useless crimes, murder. We see it now. It's ever increasing. A lot of that is because there's brokenness, and there's unhealed wounds. There's unsolved issues inside that person that they never deal with. Wounded, wounds on top of wounds. And so, I'm African American, so it hurts me to see so many of our African American men and women, and it's not really a racial thing, it's across the board. White, black, there's no race to it. We have so many broken people in our culture that have so much in them, and it comes out. It will come out. And it comes out in a lot of dysfunctional behaviors. drugs, drinking, alcoholism, gambling, pornography, overeating. All these kinds of things, whether you know it or not, are byproducts of wounds and brokenness that's never dealt with. So how does forgiveness dial into this equation? Forgiveness is a way to start the healing process. If I can forgive the person, we have the wound, if I can forgive the wounder, if I can forgive that person, then it releases all of that pent up negative emotion that's in me. And that's another reason why forgiveness is important. Forgiveness fosters healing.
Yes.
And the sad part about it is that we have so many who go through their whole life holding on to the bitterness and the rage and the hatred, and they go to their grave holding on to it.
And I think, Pastor, that maybe one of the reasons that people hold on to it is because they think they're letting that person off the hook.
Yes.
If they forgive them, you know,
Yes.
if I tell you that I forgive you, I'm creating that entryway for you to hurt me again.
Yes.
And again and again and again.
Yes.
So how do we create those healthy boundaries to say, I forgive you, but you're not going to be able to do that again? You know what I mean? I'm not going to keep letting you hurt me the way that you did. I forgive you. I love you, but you got to stay over there on that side of the street.
Someone told me if the dog bites you once, it's the dog's fault.
Right.
If he bites you twice, it's your fault.
For sure.
Okay, so let me answer that by saying this. So, first of all, forgiveness is for the person. It's for you.
For me. Okay.
It's for the person. It's for the victim. We falsely believe that if I forgive the offender, that somehow it sends a message to the offender that what they did was right and what they did was okay. No. Let me give you an example. I can forgive a person for what they did, but let me back up and since you asked that, a part of forgiveness does not make you a doormat. Forgiveness does not make you weak. As a matter of fact, in order to forgive, it takes a higher level of strength. And you got to be the big person. And you got to be the adult in the room to forgive. You go to a higher level. As Michelle Obama said, when they go low, you go high. Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, but let me tell you some things that a lot of folks are not aware of that comes with forgiveness. A victim has a right to face their offender and let them have it. You can let them have it.
Okay. So lamenting whatever is going on.
Lamenting, and your viewers probably don't know what a lament is, but a lament is when you just hold nothing back and you tell it like it is. You've seen the victim witness statement sometimes. Some of you have seen victim witness statements in court.
Yes.
Now, victim witness statements in court are very important because what it does, victim witness statements where you stand and you can read it or you can tell it and you blast the sucker. You tell them exactly what they felt. You can cry.
Yes.
You can use some choice words if you want to.
Yes.
And you tell them how you feel. Now, that's part of forgiveness because I can't truly forgive you until I get out what's in here. If I'm angry, if I'm mad, if you hurt me, if you broke me, if you came against me, if you took my innocence, whatever it is, I have a right to express that. with all barrels blasting. And once, see, a sore or wound, the pus has to come out before the wound is healed. And when you're expressing yourself and you tell them how you feel, that positions me to be able to genuinely forgive. Now, let me tell you something else about forgiveness. If you, the victim has the forgiveness, the victim has a right not only to tell the person what happened, but true reconciliation comes when that other person, the offender, well, yeah, I forgive you, but you may still have to serve some jail time. I forgive you, but it means that I got to set up boundaries, and maybe the relationship won't be as it was before. That's okay. That's being wise. I forgive you, but it doesn't mean that we always have to go back the way that it was in the beginning. You see? Yeah. So you got to remember that. You talked about boundaries.
Yes.
And sometimes, and every case is different. Sometimes in relationships, the person has to earn their right back with your trust. I forgive you, but it's wise that we keep our distance, and we'll see how it occurs, and maybe later on we can come back together.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So there's a strength there. There's victims are not just doormats where you can just I forgive you, and you walk all over me. No, it comes with some strength.
Okay. Thank you, Pastor. So I think that one of the things that people don't understand is that forgiveness is a process.
Oh God, yes.
It's a huge process.
Yes,
and I think more often than not, because we've heard how important forgiveness actually is, we think that just because I say, oh, I forgive you, that I really forgiven you. But I guess I kind of want to just talk about that. I think I heard you say some time ago about having the willingness to forgive, like having the desire to forgive, that being the first step in the process.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. So to our listeners, so watch this. If I step on your foot, or if I spill some water on your clothes, that's easily forgivable, right? If I'm late, that's easily forgivable. But for egregious, unconscionable stuff, and those words, egregious and unconscionable, that just means bad stuff, terrible stuff. Forgiveness in those cases is usually a process, like you said. Doesn't happen overnight. Now let me take this opportunity to say this. There are two extremes to forgiveness. At one extreme is we don't forgive at all. The other extreme is we forgive too soon.
Talk to us about that too soon stuff.
Okay, all right, okay. Now watch this, okay. We understand not forgiving at all. That's this right here.
Yes.
I'll never forgive. And let me tell you, a lot of people are in emotional jail. When you say, I will never forgive this person for what they did was unforgivable, you just put yourself in an emotional jail.
Wow.
Because that means when you lock off and you say, I'll never forgive, that means you're going to carry that poison, that anger, and that bitterness for the rest of your life. And you're going to carry it. And you won't be free. And you will become a bitter person, and you'll never have freedom. Okay? Now, let's look at the other end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is forgiving too soon. And this happens sometimes in Christian communities. And I've been a pastor for a long time. Sometimes what we say, we take the opposite approach. Well, you know you're supposed to forgive them, So go ahead and forgive them. I forgive you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mad as all get out.
Yes.
You're burning.
Yes.
You can find egg on your forehead. You
Yes.
are livid. I forgive you. Well, come on now. Come on. Who are you fooling?
Yes.
Who are we fooling? You know, doesn't come like that. Okay?
Yes.
So we shouldn't have either extreme. But what we should be doing is being on a road of forgiveness. It's a process where you said it, something was done to me. It was terrible. And for those that are listening, I feel you. Something that was said, well, it was terrible.
Yes.
My innocence was taken. A life was taken. A large sum of money was taken. I'll never get that back, okay? But you got to remember, your life has to go on. You can't put your life on hold. You've got to live. And you can't carry all of that. So what God does and what we do is we slowly but surely, gradually, we grow. There are some steps. We may not have time to go through the steps now, but it's a process where we let go of the anger. We become open to forgiving that person, and over time, we can open up to God's love and allow God's love to overshadow the forgiveness. Let me give you an example, and you go to the next question. There's a lady, many of you may not know her, but you know about the organization that she founded. Her name is Candace Lightner. Candace Lightner founded Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Many of you have heard about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the story behind Candace Lightner's life was this. Her daughter, her name was Carrie. Carrie was killed by a drunk driver.
Yes.
Drunk driver. Carrie was probably a preteen. Came up on the curb and killed the daughter. Okay? That's some heavy stuff.
Yes, indeed.
Candace Lightner could have stewed, and watch this even more so, the judge and the courts let this guy off, slap on the wrist. He might have served a couple of months. They didn't take his license. He got drunk again and hurt someone else. Now, she could have stewed in anger and bitterness. She could have became a person that was just overwhelmed with a lot of hatred, but she didn't do that. But she did. She took her energy, her time, and her focus from what happened, and she used it to start something constructive. And so that was in the 80s. Mothers Against Drunk Driving has been a foundational program that has passed thousands of laws across the country
Yes.
to help in this area. Okay, she did something constructive. So what I'm going to say to someone is this: you have a choice, okay, whether to stew in bitterness or to forgive and let the pain move you to do something that is constructive. And sometimes God will take our pain and our hurt and use it
Yes.
for something constructive.
Yes. That is true. That is true. Definitely true. So, Pastor, I feel like, using my feeling words here, I feel like part of the process of forgiveness also, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the process also is having a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you mentioned lamenting and, you know, getting that out.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's just about a conversation because maybe there was just a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and because I love you, I want to sit down and have this
Yes.
conversation with you so
Yes.
we can be on the path to forgiveness. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the correlation between love and forgiveness? If there is a correlation, and, you know, kind of let us know about that.
Okay, you kind of hit me with two things there.
Okay.
You said having a conversation.
Yes.
So, ideally, reconciliation. There are two ways to forgive. There's bilateral forgiveness when two people come together and they talk and they have a conversation. That's called reconciliation. Okay. And you talk, and that is so great. The Bible speaks about that. It says if you have a problem with your brother, you go to him or her one-on-one.
Yes.
Nobody else.
Yes.
Okay? And you talk to them.
Yes.
And if they listen to you, you gain the brother. There's nothing like understanding.
Yes.
A lot of times we're so fuming mad, and that's at every level. If I talk to you, I can understand what's in your head, and you tell me what you were thinking, and it opens up a dialogue, and then we can come to some sort of agreement.
Yes.
But then there's another type of forgiveness, unilateral forgiveness. Unilateral means by yourself. So sometimes you're not going to be able to talk to that person. Person might have moved away. Person might not be around. Person might not want to talk to you. But you still have to get closure. Okay? And I know you even mentioned the person might be dead. We may talk about that. So there's a way, it's called to remit. To remit. Reconciliation, when two people can sit down and talk it out. You can face the person. You can tell them what they did. They have a chance to apologize. They have an opportunity to even give back to you, whether it's monetary, whether it's an apology, whether it's giving an explanation, all of that. That's good stuff. But in many cases, people don't have access to the person who hurt them. Sometimes it's just impossible.
Yes.
Because of certain situations.
Yes.
That's when we can take it to God. Let me give you an example. In the Bible, the Apostle Paul, in his last days, before he died, there was a man by the name of Alexander the coppersmith.
I never heard of him before.
He's in there. He's in there.
Never heard of him before.
Alexander the coppersmith. He's in there.
Okay.
And Alexander and Paul was getting ready to die. And you want closure. We all want closure. We don't want to carry this stuff.
Yes.
But he said something that was very interesting. Alexander the coppersmith did me much evil. And I'm paraphrasing now, but he said, God will reward him for what he did. In other words, what he did. To remit means to send something. You know how when you send
payment?
Yeah, remit payment. That's right. You send it. You
remit
payment. You know about payment.
I know about payment.
The bill. Remit your gas bill. Remit your tax return. Okay. So, to remit means there is a way that we can take all of this, watch this now, the anger, the unfairness, the hatred, and even the justice.
Okay.
See, we want there's something about justice. Now we have to realize that God is a just God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Martin Luther King said that the arc of justice bends slowly. The moral arc of justice bends, but it bends slowly towards justice. That means this. Equality may not come right away.
Okay.
But because God is who he is, sooner or later,
Mm-hmm.
it will come.
Okay. Okay.
It will come. We see that all around.
Okay.
We see that in the Me Too movement. We see it in slavery. We see it that sooner or later, God will bring things around if you wait on him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is this. We have to trust, and this is where faith comes in. We have to trust. If we take it in our own hands, we're going to mess it up.
Yes.
You become no better, and you become just like the person who did it to you. You become a wounder yourself. But if we can trust God and we give it to him, that's remit, send it, mail it, send it to heaven, send your pain to heaven, send the injustice to heaven, send the inequality to heaven, send the bitterness to heaven, and then sometimes we have no other recourse but to trust God. And then we have to have confidence
Yes.
that God's going to take care of business.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Let me give you one more example. The biblical character David, Saul hated his guts. Those of you who know the Bible. King Saul, tried to kill David probably between some 18 and 20 times. He was jealous of the boy. The boy was bad. He slew Goliath.
Yeah.
He had it going on. You know, he was young, he was athletic, he had it going on. The women said, Saul has killed his thousands, but David has slain his 10,000s. So, jealous Saul tried to everything to kill David.
Mm-hmm.
David was on the run, but you know what? David would not lift a finger at Saul. He resisted. And that's what we have to do. Resist fighting back. When you resist fighting back, God gets involved. So make a long story short, resist is part of the forgiveness step. Mm. Because when you resist, God gets involved. And what happened is David had 2 chances to kill Saul. One time he was asleep. David's men said, let me have him. I'll nail him to the ground. David said, nope, don't bother him. Leave him alone. leave him be. And he cut off a piece of Saul's skirt, his clothes. He said, Saul, hey, I could have got you, but I didn't. And make a long story short, David became king, and Saul ended up committing suicide.
So, Pastor, that brings me to a quote, and I actually saw this quote on Instagram.
Okay.
And I didn't send it to you, but I saw this quote on Instagram. It says, the other part of forgiveness I think we should work on is the part when we accept the apology, but still want vengeance.
Ooh.
And I just said, wow. I thought it was so fitting for this conversation.
We accept the apology, but vengeance is in God's hands. We can't pay the other person. God has to do that. God has to do that. God has to pay. See, how can I pay?
Right.
You know what? I don't know the whole story.
Right. For sure. Right. See? And is that really me accepting the apology if I still want vengeance? Is that truly me accepting that?
No, I won't use the word vengeance. I'll use the word justice.
Okay.
I use the word justice because justice means that God, who knows everything, He will make the judgment. Let God make the judgment. Because, watch this, the same grace that God gave you when you did something wrong, God will give the other person as well. So leave it in the hands of God and let him do it. You see, that's the best way to look at it. I just say God's a God of justice.
And I know that personally I've been in situations where someone has hurt me and I said, I want them to hurt like I hurt.
Okay.
Even though, I couldn't think of anything, that I could do to make them feel what I felt, but I wanted them to hurt how I hurt. And I mean, that's just being honest and real. I wanted them to feel that same pain. So even if they apologized to me, I still felt that sense of, okay, I accept your apology, but I just want you to feel what I feel, so I know there's a fine line there. Yeah.
It is a fine line, and it's there.
Line.
And here again, we talked about being real and honest. You can be real and honest with God. But I call them stones, the stones and bricks of our anger and our rage and all of that is there. But you don't. But you can send it to heaven. You can send it to God, and God will give us what we need.
Okay, all right, that's good. So, Pastor, I kind of want to go back a little bit. You kind of mentioned trying to forgive someone who has passed on. So, this discussion, should I say, came on the heels of our last episode where we talked about daddy issues.
Oh, daddy issues.
And
wow.
In that discussion, we talked about forgiveness of, the father or, the parent or whatnot, because, it's not just, there's mother issues too, but, for that particular episode, we talked about daddy issues. And I believe I shared in the episode that my father was deceased.
Okay.
And my struggle with, first of all, recognizing my anger with my father and then going through the steps of trying to forgive him, even though he had been gone all those years. Because my father passed away when I was 18. I didn't even realize it was a problem until I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
So can you talk to us a little bit about forgiving someone that's deceased?
Well, let me just say this in passing. Daddy issues, that's a big issue.
Yeah.
It's a huge issue. And that's a program in and of itself.
Yeah.
With so many, with so much fatherlessness, whether... especially in our culture, and we'll handle that later. But if a person is deceased and not around, there are methods, there are ways. There's a lot of ways. Again, so there's emotion inside of us. There's brokenness on the side of us. Hatred, vengeance, anger, all of that inside of us, and it has to come out.
Yes.
So here's some general rules of thumb that we can use not only for persons who have passed on, but in any kind of area where we want to get to a point of forgiveness or closure. One is writing. It's called therapeutic writing. There's been a lot of research done on writing. You'd be surprised how healing writing is. There's one Professor Pennebaker who talks about this in one of his books. He says a person who writes has better command of their thoughts, because now you're taking your thoughts and your emotions that are all garbled up on the inside and you're getting them out on paper.
Yes.
And you write, and you write, and you write. You can write about it, okay? You can write about someone who's passed on. This is what I thought. This is what happened. This is the way I felt. It may bring tears, and sometimes the tears are therapeutic too. It brings out emotions.
Yes.
And then what do you do with that writing? You read it, and then you can read it to others. Not only that, talking, sharing with other people.
Yeah.
Here's something. If someone passed, going to maybe other family members who were family members of that person, and maybe sharing your thoughts with them about some unhealed wounds and issues that were not closed, and talking it out. This is the way I felt. I felt this way. And those persons can kind of stand in the gap for that deceased person. Is very effective. And you're venting. See, again, you're getting it out to people who are close to them. Maybe they're relatives. It could be a brother, it could be a sister. If they're willing to listen, that's healing. Another way, you go to the cemetery. A headstone there, that's as close you're going to get, and you vent, and you talk, okay, and you share, and you get it out. Another one is what we call the empty chair technique. You get an empty chair, you put it in front of you, and you can talk, and you can vent as if that person was there. So these are just some techniques that you can do. And then, of course, there's always prayer.
Yes.
Talking to God. So many people hold it in. And when you're holding it in, it's doing damage psychologically. It's doing damage medically. Let me say this about the medical or the physiological aspect of holding in anger and stuff. Many of our illnesses, ulcers, heart attacks, strokes, muscle spasms, sleeplessness are caused. These are and most doctors will tell you, they'll ask you, are you under stress? Okay? Many of our illnesses are caused by spiritual and emotional issues that are churning inside of us that we've not dealt with. Okay? So this is very important for our medical health.
That's really good, Pastor. That was really good. That's some good stuff. That's some good stuff. Very much needed. So, Pastor, thank you so much for having this discussion with me. Your first of many.
Okay. All right.
Your first of many.
I'm good. Any way that I can.
We appreciate you so much.
Let me say one thing before you go. And let me add this, and this is the cherry on top, you all. And this is for the Christian group. We may have Christians watching, we may have non-Christians watching, but let me say this to you. Probably the most important characteristic of Jesus, of all of his characteristics, was his ability to forgive and his emphasis on forgiving. Now watch this. Dying on a cross, naked, before a crowd. They beat him, they whipped him, they pierced him, they falsely accused him. Now watch this, I want you to catch this. If the human side of him would have embraced all of that and kept it in, but he didn't keep it in. Before he died, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. When he said that, he was any overflow or remnant of hatred or bitterness that was inside of him, he was getting it out of him. So Jesus did that, and one other thing, of everything that happened to him, he was betrayed by his own people. He was talked about. People didn't accept him. They misunderstood him. But yet and still he was able to minister with sweetness and love. Like, wow, you do all of that to me and I can still love? It was because he forgave. So he didn't hold any of that.
Yes.
It slipped off of him. So I want to, I know you're going to close, but I just want to say, this is if you want to live with peace and joy and freedom, you've got to start on a road of forgiveness. You'll live longer. You'll be a happy camper. And it'll make you a joyous person.
Wonderful. Well,
that's all I'm going to say today.
Thank you, Pastor. So the next time you are here with us, which is in 2 weeks, so everybody mark that on your calendar. Okay. So the next time you are here with us, we are going to talk about forgiving ourselves.
Ooh, yeah.
And forgiving God.
Oh, man. Ooh, that's
what we're going to talk about.
That's some good stuff there.
We're going to discuss that. That's what we're going to bring to the table.
All right. We'll bring
the next time that you are here with us in 2 weeks.
Okay.
But Pastor, can you tell everybody that's watching how they can find you Sunday services, Wednesday services? Can you let them know where you are?
I tell you. Well. You can come visit us at Inner Healing Ministries Church if you're a church goer. We're on 2392 Noble Road in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, 44121. That's where we are on Sunday and on Wednesday. And by the way, I'll be on Facebook Live tomorrow. Our website is www.ihm-cleveland.org. ihmcleveland.org. You can chime on, or you can just type in Inner Healing Ministries Facebook, and you'll get us. And we're doing some exciting things there. We're going to start a school. Talk about counseling. I believe that counseling is so important. It's going to be a lay counseling school, and we're going to do all our best to uphold the name of our church, Inner Healing Ministries Church. 440-346-5033. 440-346-5033 is our number. You can call if you need counseling, if you need help. So
absolutely. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor.
So
and for all of you, I just want to remind you that we are on both Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
And we are also on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube. And you can also find the podcast now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's worth a discussion. Also, if you have any questions for the next time that Pastor is with us, go ahead and email us those questions at iwadtalk21@gmail.com. Until we see each other next time, peace.